All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're back here talking about the three straight win Detroit Lions sitting at 4-6. Now, yesterday I was kind of messing around, and in my Lions video, I said, because I'm a Packer fan, that the Lions have a higher percent chance to make the playoffs than the Green Bay Packers. And I actually got a lot of comments saying, I've seen crazier things. So I wanted to look into it a little bit more and talk about it a little bit more. Statistically speaking, the Detroit Lions have a 12% chance at making the playoffs. Now, I still think personally this is a little bit of a reach. I don't necessarily think Detroit is quite there yet, simply because of the way they started the season. Starting the season 1-6 is really tough. I don't think that Detroit necessarily has to win all of their remaining games. Here are their games. We know that they have the Bills on Thanksgiving. Now, if they take down Buffalo on Thanksgiving, you get to 5-6. That's pretty good momentum right there, because the next week you continue to stay at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars, a struggling, rebuilding team. Then you stay home, play Minnesota, then you go to New York, play the Jets, go to Carolina, come back home for the Chicago Bears on New Year's Day, which is awesome, and then you go to Green Bay for the last game. So, personally, the way I see the NFC, I think maybe they could lose one more game. And that's what's so crazy about this is when we take a look at their last three wins, you took down Green Bay 15-9. You took down Chicago on the road 31-30, and this past week yesterday you took down the Giants 31-18. And honestly, the box score, or just the score in general, I don't think it was really indicative of how that game actually went. To me, Detroit just kind of dominated it. So, I think it's a long shot. If they had started the season a little bit better, I would probably think differently. However, the NFC is wide open. The NFL in general is wide open, but the NFC specifically is wide open. A lot of the teams remaining, a lot of the teams in the hunt for the wild card position, they're playing each other. So really all Detroit can do here is just win football games. And a lot of us we talked about this in my video yesterday, which, by the way, if you guys are a Lions fan, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I plan on posting a ton of Lions content, just going to cover them for the remainder of the season. So, yeah, hit that like button, hit that sub button, show some love down below if you're a Lions fan. We're talking about this Bills game because, Buffalo is a really talented team, obviously, but to me, they still have holes. They're 7-3 right now. They just beat Cleveland. They had that back-to-back losses against the Jets and the Minnesota Vikings earlier in the season. They lost to Miami. I really don't think it's impossible. I just don't think this is the Buffalo team that is playing to its full potential. I don't know. I think they have some flaws. Now, long term, here's the thing with Detroit. You need more playmakers. That's really all it boils down to. They're still dealing with some injuries, right? Aiden Hutchinson was a phenomenal draft pick. You got to remember about Jameson Williams. I mean, they have some nice weapons. St. Brown, Williams, Swift. Once Swift gets healthy, because the way I'm seeing it is DeAndre Swift has pretty much yet to be healthy, or I should say fully healthy, at any point so far through this season. You have Jamal Williams, who, my former running back, that man was an absolute gem of a signing. He's a stud in his own regards. Dan Campbell, Lions, I mean, they knew that. So, personally, I think, what was it, a 10% chance? I think that is I think that's a safe guess. But we all know right now something is brewing. We know something's brewing in Detroit. The other thing outside of weapons that they could use, they have an unbelievable offensive line, is, I guess, just more bodies on the defensive end. This is a very young, raw defensive team. They're going to make issues. They're going to make mistakes. It really just... You got to put it all together, and that's what we've seen that's what we saw last week. We really saw it against that game against Aaron Rodgers. The Bears did put up 30 points, but it's starting to come together. Brad Holmes has done a phenomenal job. Something about the GMs in Detroit, like, Troy Weaver is just so underrated. Brad Holmes is just so underrated. So obviously something's brewing in Detroit. We made a video yesterday talking about how they're drinking the Kool-Aid, and it really just is true. So you have a top 10 offense in the NFL. They're putting up 25 points a night, but statistically speaking, you do have the worst record in the league. Now, Aiden Hutchinson's on pace for like 11 sacks right now, which in general is really insane. It's really impressive, but this is a rookie. Aiden Hutchinson's a rookie. He's about to have, or he could have, he's on pace for over 11, over 10 sacks. So extremely impressive. Kirby Joseph, another draft pick stud, gem, third round out of Illinois. They're getting these names. They're building it up. So I don't think it's going to be this year where Detroit ends up making the playoffs, but next year, why not, dude? I would say actually definitely. They're going to be right up in there, and Detroit could even win one or two more games for the remainder of the season. I'd still feel the same. I think a lot of you guys would still feel the same on Detroit. It's just, Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, they're doing a phenomenal job. They're building something extremely special. So I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. I also just think it's interesting. They've really only had 2 bad losses in the entire season. We all remember week 1, that absolute shootout against the Philadelphia Eagles, 38-35. Minnesota week 3, 28-24. The week after that, Seattle 48-45. Those are three like legitimate Super Bowl contenders. Those are 3 legitimate contenders to come out of the NFC there. You do have 2 bad losses, getting shut out by New England, and then the following week against Dallas, 24-6. And then the week after that was a much better loss against Miami, 31-27. But, every team, it doesn't even matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your record is. If you're the best team in the league, if you're the worst team in the league, if you're a playoff team, whatever the case may be, you're going to have at least 1 bad week of football. I would say 2 is more of a safer bet. Everyone's going to have like 2 bad weeks of football. And we've really only seen 2 bad weeks of football from the Detroit standpoint, and it really just kind of boiled down to the defense. Right, you're giving up 38, you're giving up 48. Those are just going to be tough games to win in general. It doesn't really matter how your offense is looking. So I am excited. I'm excited to watch this team. Thanksgiving football is obviously a tradition in its own regard, but I'll throw the Cowboys in there as well. I like watching the Cowboys lose on Thanksgiving. And with my family being from Detroit and me used to live outside of Detroit, watching Detroit Lion football on Thanksgiving, it's just a pastime. So if they win that game in just a couple of days on Thursday against Buffalo at home, which I would not be surprised about, that would, I can't even imagine. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So hit that like button, hit that sub button. If you guys want more Lions content, show some love down below. Let me know what you guys are thinking about this team for the duration of this season, and I'll see you guys later.